I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. Let's go.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the third rendition of Sidetrack Sunday for the month of October. So tonight, we're going to try to talk about signaling. But before we get to that, we've got over on my left the model railroading live streams. If you are a live streamer and you're not on that list, or if you're a live streamer or was a live streamer and you're still on that list, but you're no longer doing live streams, let one of the Sidetrack Sunday guys know, preferably John, Schuylkill River Valley, since he's the one that actually does that stuff. But you can let any of us know, and we will get that updated. So while that list is going on, I'm going to go through the list of hellos. So it looks like first we got Jerry Sattarelli here, Train Fan 120, Mystic Southern Railway, Mr. Pictovid. Interesting comment. He says, signaling. Will I be able to understand my wife's mixed signals after this stream? Mr. Pictovid, here's your answer. If she is green or yellow, I don't know what to tell you, but if she's red, you better stop whatever you're doing. So, red, stop. So yeah. All right, continuing on, we've got Scott with Hillbilly Railroad. We got Nisi in the house. We got James Galton. We got John with the Schuylkill River Valley. James Galton. Dwight Curley. I think he was having some buffering issues earlier. Dan's Model Railroading Journey. Ian with the Lehigh River Subdivision. We got Rick with the Fultz Bailey Model Railroad. That is Rick the Tree for everyone who does not know. Let's see, who else we got? We got Rusty Possum Bayou. We got Tyler Lackawanna Rail Fan. And the chat is blowing up like crazy. Kyle Stevens is here. We got Midsummer Railway in Scale. That's Greg over in Australia. Yeah, let's see. Who else we got? Manny Fernandez, Joe Rader, BlackRock Central. Ron Moen is here as well. Let's see. We got Randall Ellison. We got Chris with Go Veer or Go Home. He says he is working, so he is hiding in the back. So appreciate you tuning in while you're at work, Chris. Don't work too hard. We got Chuck, CDP 1965 here as well. And eventually I will get caught up with the chat. We got Sparky in the house. Sparky 107. Santa Fe Bob. We got Mason-Dixon Railroad. Andy Wellman is here. We got Tim with CP368 Productions. Ethan Armitage is here. So welcome, Ethan. We got Marty, M&M Short Lines Railroad. Rail Artist is here. Melvin Fackler. We got Dave, BNSF in Scale. And let's see. We got another Sidetrack Sunday gang member. We've got Ray Bobel in the house. Thomas Grassi is here. And I know Thomas has been doing a little bit of signaling on his layout. Manshed. I do not recognize that name. So if this is your first time on my live streams, welcome. Andrew Fitch is here. So welcome, Andrew. We got Rory Hardwick, Container Man 68 in the house as well. Split Rock 323, who is probably going to be more of an expert on this than I am. We got Tom with Tom's Trains and Things. So welcome, Tom. We got Catnuts at Southern Yankee Railroad, and I'm still not caught up. David Atkins is here. Creepy 13 is here. Pennsylvania and Northwestern Railway is here as well. Andrew Estep is here. We got Martin Siersma. I guess he is lurking since he's showing the eyeballs. SoCal Scale Models is here. We got Pappy Tri-Goglin. Welcome, welcome. Sean McGee. And my wife, Amanda, is here as well. So that means now I have to behave. Oh, Lord. Shay's In-Scale is here. Shay that does not own a Shay locomotive. How about that? We got Cousin Vinny in the house. So welcome, Vinny. And I think Sparky is over with Vinny. So I thought I saw that on his video earlier. We got JD, Grandpa Rails. We got Roy Eltham. And the chat is still going. We got David Z to G here as well. Sparky says, this is in stereo tonight. 3 of us have the volume all the way up, and Container Man 68 is lagging a second behind like normal. That is probably not a surprise. Or I wouldn't think it would be a surprise. All right. And I'm still not caught up. Man, y'all are blowing the chat up. Trying to see if I missed anyone. All right, I finally made it to the end. So awesome. So, like I said, welcome to all of y'all. If I did miss you, just go in the chat and say hi again. I apologize, but man, that chat's blowing up. So that's a cool thing. And it looks like we got 55 people in here. So that's a pretty good group. We got Ray at Golden Leaf Railroad. So welcome, Ray. All right. So let's do this. All right. So I told y'all, for those who watched my layout update earlier and some of the other live streams that I've been in, I've had a lot of people ask me questions about signaling, and I know enough to be dumb. I'll put it that way. I've done quite a bit of research on it to see, what type of signals, are used for what, and different railroads use it for two different purposes. So you've got two types of signaling. You've got either what they call speed control signaling, and a lot of times you'll see the signal mast with like three different heads on it. CSX is big on that, and I want to say both Canadian National and Canadian Pacific. Only in Canada, they're big on that. And there was some other Class 1 railroads. Southern Pacific, I think, was another one. But most of the railroads east of the Mississippi were what they call speed restriction. That's where each signal head on the mast would have a different type of speed assignment. But the one, so what about lunar? We forgot lunar. Red light, green light, yellow light, lunar. That would be kind of fun. All right, Sparky is saying, stop saying so much. He's getting an echo. I hope you like that, Sparky. I did that just for you, buddy. But yeah, the other type of signaling would be, it's called weak directional. I think that's what it said. I've been doing a little bit more reading up just to make sure. But I think it's called weak directional. And that is basically where you have the top signal head is basically, letting you know that you're clear to go straight through like a turnout. And if you have like a second signal head that's green, then it's saying, okay, you're going to be diverging. So, but yeah, as far as like the main signal rules, green means go, yellow means not slow down because your next one's going to be red. And that's more or less for both signal types. And then, of course, red means stop for the most part. There are a few instances where you can proceed on a red. I can share some screens to kind of go along with that. And if I'm going to go ahead and tell Split Rock, because I know he's in here. If he wants to message me, I will send him a link because he could probably explain some of this a little better than I am since he is an engineer for Union Pacific. But the one thing to keep in mind is whichever railroad you're trying to model after, if you want to do signaling on your layout, research to see what type that they ran. If it's speed control or if it was the other. Chuck wants to know, what if you're colorblind? Man, that is a good one. Really don't know how to answer that one because I am not colorblind. And Frank Steeler fan 820 popping on. Whoops. See, the chat's just blowing. I'm telling you. He's got a Steeler game coming on, so he's going to have to miss out on good train talk for the Steelers. Do not know who they're playing tonight, so wish them the best of luck. As long as it's not Kansas City. And then we'll be good. So, and David Atkins is saying in England they have feather signals to indicate that you're going through a turnout on a diverging track. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. So, signaling has been around, I want to say, since the 1860s, and it was created in the UK, in England. So, yeah, there you go. Colorblind. You better have a good conductor on board. So yeah, and so trying to get back on the track. Foosball, yeah, or buy some colorblind glasses. There you go. I don't know how that's going to help you or not, but there you go. But anyways, I have totally lost my train of thought. Where is that sign that Tom's Trains and Things has? I could definitely use that right now. Hey, we've got DES Media Productions in the house. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so back on the color aspects, and, there are different types of signals, and we're going to kind of go over that too. But 1860s is roughly when the over in England, I do not know exactly which railroad did it. I don't know if I'm assuming there's more than one over there, kind of like in the U.S. That's funny. So, but as far as like the U.S., the first type of signals that you would see are what we would call semaphores. They actually had a flag that would, kind of raise up and down. And so if the flag was up, it was pretty much at a stop position. But if it went down, then it was at a proceed. So it was what they call a double aspect signal. And then a lot of times you would see more than one semaphore on a single mast. And that was where originally the weak directional signaling actually came into play. But that's like, if you're modeling like steam era, then you probably want to look into semaphores. But if you're modeling anything modern, you're probably not going to see that. Now, I also know a lot of the passenger stations and depots had semaphore signals as well. So, Crooked River in Eastern, Dave is saying, hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. You are not late, my friend. You are on time. So if you make any part of my live stream, even if it's the last minute, you're still on time. So, and you can never be too early too, because I saw where a few people commented that before the stream started. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share a few things, and I'm going to show you the reason why I decided to get into signaling as well. No, Sparky, I'm not trying to break my arm. My arm's already tired enough as is. I've been painting all day, so you can ask the STS guys. All right, so Raton Pass still has semaphore signals, and I mean, like I said, it would not surprise me if there are still some places that have it. I know, like along the old Rock Island line between Little Rock and Memphis, a lot of the depots still have them, even though the tracks have been taken up. Now, Randall, do you know if they are still using those signals? That I am curious about. So let's see. All right. So originally, when I was, looking as far as my layout, I'm modeling right now 1960s, right? And I'm thinking, Cotton Belt, it was a class 1, but it was one of the smaller class 1 railroads. I didn't really think that they had signals on that railroad. And then I came across this document, and so basically all I did was just Google search Cotton Belt signaling, right? Because I was trying to figure out when did they start signaling. And I came across this. And the first page was pretty much a dead giveaway. So you have a signal here, and this is what we call the Searchlight type signal. It's basically a one color lens that actually changes between different colors. And typically they would have 4 aspects. You would have red, yellow, green, and then sometimes you would have a 4th color called the lunar, which is a white with a blue filter on it. And they said it looked like the moon, so that's why they call it a lunar white. And then I see that, oh, well, here is a EMD FT unit. And I'm like, FT units were in the 40s. And so as I'm scrolling down through this article, which has got some really, really good information, it talks about the different route, how many cars they could hold. And the reason why they went to signaling, especially for CTC, and that's what really blew my mind, is between Louisville, Arkansas, and Pine Bluff was pretty much what they called a log jam. Most railroads that didn't have signals back then, they were dark. For example, you got Robert with the Flying Crow. He is modeling the old Louisiana and Arkansas Minden sub, which was owned by KCS in 1976, and that's the year he's modeling. That line was completely dark. Another person that I know that's modeling a dark line is George Bogatuck, who works for Soundtracks. He's their lead in sales. He's actually modeling the Missouri Pacific White River subdivision, and they only had signals that protected the tunnels. So it was just basically ABS signals, and it was either green or red, and just basically told you if the tunnel was occupied or not. But I came across this article, and I read it, pretty well. And there's a good picture of what a CTC dispatcher's desk looks like. And ironically, this is located in the Arkansas Railroad Museum, and I hope to get down there one day and do a live stream there. I think it'd be pretty fun. So that way I can show you an actual real CTC dispatcher's desk. But just a lot of good information. Even how the electronics worked. It was, it's a pretty good document. But more or less, coming across it, I see this date right here, February 1946. And so I'm like, okay, well, definitely now I can do CTC signaling on the layout. So let's see here. Make sure I haven't missed anyone coming in. Looks like we got Dwayne's Fork and Spoon here. And where's Heath? I have no clue where Heath is at. Earlier, he was on Ours Trains live stream about an hour ago. He could be walking the train inspector for all I know. Hey, we got Artie, Osmerica Model Railroad here as well. So welcome, Artie. And Risden and Rome Model Railroad is here as well. So, but yeah, coming across, and Norman Rowe. Welcome, Norman. So Heath is vacuuming the new carpet. That would not surprise me. That would not surprise me at all. Oh, okay. So he finally shows up. So Heath is not here. He is hiding. But he's not here. So he's hiding. So we'll just let him continue to hide and vacuum his carpet and everything else. Wigwag Workshop and Almar, welcome. Welcome here. So, like I said, coming across this article here is what really intrigued me. Okay, I need to do some type of signaling on the layout. Now, not just any type of signaling, CTC. So CTC stands for Centralized Traffic Control. So basically, all of your turnouts are on the main line, not your industrial spurs and whatnot if you got turnouts, off in the industries anywhere. But anything that's on the main line is going to be controlled by a central dispatcher. Like, for example, Union Pacific, their dispatch is in Omaha, Nebraska, and they control all of, the Union Pacific lines throughout the western part of the U.S. In Omaha, I want to say Kansas City Southern would be in Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas. I don't know which part of Kansas City, but, KC. CSX, I think theirs is in Jacksonville, Florida. Norfolk Southern, BNSF, I'm not too sure on, but Randall Elson should know where BNSF's dispatch control should be. And then, of course, the two Canadian railroads, I have no clue either. I would leave that one up for either Chris with a Go Via Go Home or Sparky and David Atkins on that one. So, but yeah, that's CTC. So, and if you have any type of questions, feel free to ask. If I don't know the answer, I sure will get in touch with someone who does. But like I said at the beginning, okay, so Split Rock is saying BNSF's in Fort Worth, Texas. Okay, that's very good to know, Thomas. I appreciate that. And like I said, Thomas is probably more of a signal expert than I am. I'm probably just an amateur at this stuff. But like I said, I've just been doing research and trying to figure out. And Thomas has actually been helping me as far as like signal placements for CTC on my layout, because you've also got what's called ABS. It's automatic block signaling, which is it's very basic. CTC is where it's dispatch controlled. So, and it looks like Rory, what do you want? Rory's trying to call me. Container Man, what do you want, man? All right. So let's see here. Oh yeah, every time I say so, it's like an echo for them. Yes, Roy. Do what?
It's not Roy.
Oh, well, who is this?
Roy didn't want to call you.
Oh, it's Sparky.
Roy was playing shy, and then he just said, "Here, can you call him for me? I just can't do that."
What can he not do? The so?
Well, I can do the so thing. You got 4 cell phones going here, and they're all like lagging behind mine. It's horrible. So you got to stop saying so many times, because 4 times so is so. That's just so.
That's awesome.
Did you actually want to talk to Roy now that I've called you?
That's up to him, unless he wants to be on live.
Well, he keeps saying no. I don't know why. He must be scared of you or something.
He must be.
Must be all your licking stickers.
That and the propane tanks.
Yeah, it could be that.
It could be the propane tanks. I think he's a little jealous.
All right. Well, you want to talk to anybody here? We got Vinny, JD.
Hey, y'all are more than welcome. You want me to send y'all a link for y'all to pop up?
Oh, I don't know if anybody will pop up. Somebody might pop up. Who knows?
I could always put it in the chat, but I'm afraid I might get some other people in the chat that might want to pop up too. That might not be cool.
Well,
So,
send it to Roy.
all right. Well, hey, I'll let y'all go. I'll see you on the live stream, buddy. All right, bye.
Ciao.
Sparky, you're crazy, buddy. But that's why we all love you. All right, so back on to it. So Edward Flower, what's going on, buddy? So Edward is a guy that I met at the Jacksonville Train Show, which is actually being moved to Conway this next year. Jacksonville's Train Show was too small. Too many people were trying to get registered for it. I was actually one of the last ones to get Junior's layout registered. And so now they're moving it to a bigger and better place. So that's going to be much better come next year. All right, back on signaling. So, of course, I'm modeling the cotton belt, right? So I am going to share what the cotton belt uses. And let's see here. There we go. All right, so I know when you see a page that looks like this, it's a whole bunch of gobbledygook. Manshed. Okay, so he's saying, yay, Conway. Manshed, do you live around Conway? I'm just curious. Conway, Arkansas would be the town. I know probably every state's got a Conway, I'm sure. So, all right, so back on this. So one of the things to keep in mind on signaling is if you have a placard, because sometimes you're going to see some of these rules with a placard and without a placard. Now, of course, like with Southern Pacific, you could see a mast with a single head, a mast with a double head, or a mast with a triple head. And here it's saying that these signals are dark or they could be lit in red. So anytime that you see a green on the top position, and yes, even the SP at some point had the old B&O and Pensy type signals too, and these would be your semaphores here. But anytime that you would see the green on the top, that just means, hey, you're clear to go through. So now SP, I want to say used speed controlled signaling in the past, and then later converted to what they call weak directional signaling. Hey, Barnabas Junction. What's going on, Jason? From the other side of the pond. Welcome. So Edward is saying he is working on paint jobs for new Braunfels show. Where's that show going to be at, Edward? I'm assuming probably either in Texas or Louisiana or Oklahoma, somewhere in that area. Okay, so Kyle is saying that he says, oh boy, don't even get me started on signaling on the B&O. I'm still learning them. Well, hey, Kyle, I'm still learning SP. More or less the advanced stuff. But, yeah, Ray is right. Green on top, that is the highball. So anytime you hear that, that means, hey, you can go at full track speed. So if your track speed is here on the Hoxie sub, which is old Mopac lines, and even the old Cotton Belt lines, Jonesboro and Pine Bluff subs, max track speed was 55 miles an hour. There are some places where the track speeds are faster, 65 for freight, 70 for freight. Just depends where, depends on how heavy the rail is, the grades, curvatures, things like that. Split Rock is saying that he prefers 12-year-old Scotch in his highball. So there you go. So Nissy, yeah, we thought you knew all the worlds. You don't know all the worlds or the words? Something like that. All right. Let's see here. James, it wasn't busy at all. Nowhere many people as thought. Oh, okay. Now, of course, you got other countries that use signals too. So keep in mind if you're from other parts of the world, unless you're modeling American like maybe Artie is, this might not be useful to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. But all right, so back on the SP. So with this one here, the first signal you got is called a distant signal clear. And it's just basically letting you know that, hey, your next signal is going to be clear. Where the 9.1.2 distant signal approach is letting you know that, hey, your next signal is going to be an approach, which is actually this one down here. So instead of the green light on the top, we have a yellow light on the top. Now, this one here is showing a yellow light on the second one, and that's because the one above it is dark. So just keep that in mind. And of course, you've got these semaphores here, the yellow ones in the upright position. So that would be a typical approach. Can you zoom in? Let's see here. Let me see if I can do this. Is that better, Barnabas? Let me know. Okay. Oh, I think I just missed something in the chat. Just making sure. Okay. So, yeah, got a couple people asking if I can zoom in. So, I am zoomed in. So, hopefully that helps. But, yeah. So, like I said, green on the top is clear. Yellow on the top. We're going to go back and forth. Yellow on the top. That means, hey, you're at an approach. That tells you that your next signal that you're going to come to is more likely going to be this one here. A red signal meaning stop. But of course, you could come to one of these that have the number placard on it, which would be stop and proceed. That means you actually have to stop at this signal, and then you can proceed to the next signal, which is more likely going to be another stop signal. That means you're proceeding slowly. Now, for the Canadian railroads and for CSX, I'm going to show you what your difference is between speed control and weak directional. So for y'all, this means you can go at full track speed, aka the highball. The next signal head, if it's lit up, that means you're going to go to a reduced speed. So let's say your track speed is typically 55 miles an hour. Reduced speed could be, say, 45 miles an hour. And then the bottom one is going to be called restricted speed. And that is where you only go past that 15 miles an hour. Weak directional kind of elaborates on that a little bit. But more or less with weak directional, you're going to get more like, oh, well, the next signal means that I'm actually going to be diverging when I come to a turnout. So most of the signals that you're going to see are just going to be this little single mast here. You're not going to see a lot of doubles and triples. And so if you do see one that's got, a yellow on the bottom, which is going to be diverging. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. Diverging clear. So that's typically where you got like a red over green, red over green, a red green over red, or red over green over dark, for example. That just basically states that, hey, you're coming to a turnout. You're not going to take the straight path. You're going to take a path to the next track line. So that could be going on a crossover, like a single crossover. It could be going through a double crossover. But, a train's really only going through one part of that anyways. Or you could be going to a siding. You could be going off to another track that was off to another subdivision. So that would be more or less for your diverging clear, where the top one here is more or less for your straight path. So we're not taking the siding. We're not, we're just going to stay straight. Now, we've got some of these with the little flashies on them. And the flashies just mainly mean that if you come to a flashing yellow, that just lets you know, hey, your next signal is going to be the approach. It doesn't mean you have to reduce speed unless on a speed controlled signal, the flashing is either on the second head or the third head, the middle head or the bottom head. Let's see here. So Tim is saying that the number is the milepost on the CSX and Norfolk Southerns. I don't know what he means by ding ding on the end of that. So they often refer to the yellow board as a diverging approach. So that would be this here. Yellow over yellow is what they call the approach diverging. Now, we can go to page 2 on these signals. And for those who are curious to know where these are located, railroadsignals.us is a really good website to go to. And that's actually where this PDF is coming from. They have not just the most recent ones, but they do have signals for the older eras as well. And here, like I said, these are signal aspects of the Southern Pacific Railroad, which is what I modeled because the Cotton Belt at that time was a subsidiary of the Southern Pacific. So they used their signaling. Now on page 2, this actually really tells you exactly what to do. So this is really a really good document for you SP fans out there that are actually doing signaling on your layout. You might want this document. For the other railroad fans, you've got, your railroads, I guarantee you, they've got every single railroad in the U.S. Probably some of the Canadian ones. It would not surprise me at all. But mainly, like I said, green means go. Yellow means slow down. You're fixing to come to a stop. And red means stop. So it's kind of like a traffic signal in a way. Let's see here. And I will, so Derek Alexander, welcome. And yes, this does get confusing at first, and I'm trying to explain it the best I can without confusing people because, it took me forever to really get my head deep down in it. So thank you, John, Schuylkill River Valley, for posting that link. John is always good at posting links up there for us, so I really appreciate that. So Andy is saying that he uses block signaling. That would be ABS. It kind of works the same way. I want to say ABS is more speed control than weak diverging or directional. So there you go. Split rock. He's got a very, very good point here. The traffic lights were designed after the railroad signals. Oh, Lord, we got someone in the basement.
Hey, Jason.
Hold on. Let me get my headphones in so I can hear you. All right, try that again.
Hey, Jason.
What's going on, Roy?
Not much.
You finally decided to come up, huh?
I had to switch some accounts and forgot my password and had to change it and all.
Well, I see you come in as VS, JD, DH, and RH. So you must be over there in the middle of the Vinny party over there.
Yeah. Well, let's see here if I can hang on a second. There we go.
Now, does everybody know that you got the camera on them?
Are you live?
Do what?
Vinny doesn't see me.
Vinny doesn't see.
Now it's you on.
So now Vinny is waving to himself.
Yeah.
And then we got
Now
JD
John's
waving to himself.
But we're missing someone because Sparky's not sitting in his usual corner.
Did you put Sparky in timeout?
Oh.
So Chuck wants to know what's that on the TV?
CSI New York, I think.
Okay. Sorry to disappoint you, Chuck. You put Sparky in the backyard. That's awesome. I guess he was getting tired of the so echoes.
Uh-oh.
Say hi, so too cute.
Hi. There, see?
Chuck's saying Sparky's in the helix.
I'll leave. Ow. Those hurt. Yeah.
Sean wanted to know if Sparky was sleeping already. Well, he's still awake.
He's still awake.
tuned. Yeah, he's still awake.
He's on the phone with the wife.
Ray is saying Sparky in timeout. Gotta love it.
Yeah, he's on timeout. Oh. They're not walking out.
So Chuck is saying Sparky needs to cover those white legs. They're blinding.
That's where my mic doesn't work right.
You know, Chucky can't help it. He's Canadian. They don't get a lot of sun up there.
Okay, I hit you with my bad knee. Oh, hang on a minute.
No, that's funny. So Split Rock said Sparky's wife, Amy, still thinks he's in the train shed. All right, Dave. Good night, buddy. You take care. So, so Roy, since I got you up here,
yeah,
you plan on doing any signaling on your layout?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know. I haven't decided. I haven't gotten that far yet. So
Well,
maybe.
I tell you what. Do what?
I said maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Tim's got a real good point. So, for those who are still talking about the signaling and track, yes, it would be the signals of the railroad that own that track.
Oh, yeah.
And so, when you got trackage rights, like CSX, they would have to learn how the other railroads would use signals. So, traffic lights for the trucks. Okay. So, Roy, you got anything else before I pop you off out of here?
Yeah.
No, I guess not.
No.
Just
But
wanted
it's good that you hopped on. All right.
I know.
All right.
You take care. I thought I'd say hi and show everybody that we're all here drinking water towers.
There you go. Well, make sure you save me one. Or drink one.
I should have mailed you one.
Yeah, you should have. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Take care, buddy. We'll holler at you later. Oh, that was fun. All right. So Barnabas is saying that he doesn't have any signals on his layout, but he does plan to install in the future. So, Jason, I've got a good question for you because I am not very familiar with signals that are still used in the UK. Is it going to be lighted signals like what I plan on using, or is it going to be more of these semaphores, which are like these right here, the ones with the flags? Gus Hadley, the lunatic from Arno, welcome. So Nisi is asking, signals for the industry yards, I suppose. No, you would actually not have signals in the yard. You would have a signal that allows you to exit the yard and go on your main line, and then you would have a signal that would allow you to come into the yard. And speaking of, we can actually go ahead and go on that aspect. And typically, if a train's coming into the yard, you're going to see this one here. This is a rule.9.112. It's called restricting. So you typically see this is that fourth color I was telling you about, the lunar. You would have a lunar aspect or a flashing red. And so restricting, the rule on it just means that you proceed at a restricted speed. And that's typically 15 miles an hour. So Barnabas is hoping to use a mixture, but mainly lights. So for me, I'm going to be using strictly all Searchlight style signals, which I haven't got to. Yep, lunar, 15 miles an hour. So lunar, flashing red, it's the same rule. So if you do not have a lunar, you can always use a flashing red. Thomas is saying that the audio is very slow now. Is anyone else having that problem? That would be good to know. So Nissi is saying that she has never seen a lunar on a layout, just red. Okay, so when I get to the actual building the yard on my layout, I'm going to be replacing the yellow with a lunar. And that's only going to be for the yard entrances. Other than that, there's really not a need for a lunar on the layout. Barnabas is saying that the audio is very so. But okay. So does anyone have any questions on different signal aspects? I know we didn't go over all the rules because some of these rules are confusing. But like I said, you can look up your railroad's rules and on railroadsignals.us, and it will explain everything for you. So there you go. Oh, so Thomas is saying that my audio is very low, not slow. But everybody else is saying it sounds good. So if I need to be louder, I can turn myself up. But Thomas, you might need to turn your volume up. So Jason is saying the audio is perfect. David Z to G, there will be a test at the end of the show. Yes. And the question is going to be, what color does your better half turn for you to stop? So that's your question. It's based off of Mr. Pictovid's comment at the very beginning of the live stream. So yep, Sean is saying clear as mud. That's pretty much, yeah, it's pretty much clear as mud. It's just basically, like I said, for the railroads, it just tells you like the stop and proceed. Stop, then proceed at restricted speed, except as provided by Rule 9.16, which is stop and proceed indication, where a 9.1.14 is stop. And that was basically going back over these two. So, but I don't see a 9.1.16 or 9.16. So, and that would be in the rule book. And I don't have a Southern Pacific rule book. The only rule books I actually have, I've got a Illinois Central and a Texas and Pacific rule book from the early 1900s. So, all right. So dwarf signals. All right. So I'm going to pull up another website, and if you want to call this advertising, that's fine. But this is the guy that I'm actually ordering signals from. And so this allows me to show you the different types. So let's see here. And I want to share this screen. All right, so Custom Signal Systems, I'm not asking you to buy anything from him, but if you are interested, he's got his contact info there. All right, so let me see if I can make this screen bigger. There we go. All right, so like I said, Searchlight, that's where you have, one light, for example, but it can change into different colors. And he's showing here on a 3-headed the 3 different colors you can have. One of the questions that he asked me is if I wanted to change the yellow to a lunar. That will be something, like I said, I will be doing for a yard entrance. Another type of signal, you have what's called the G type. This is where you have 3 different lights in a triangular position. And so, the triple headed is the best example to show. And then, of course, you have the D type. This is what a lot of the railroads use today, is the modern D type. But you can still see some of these around. I know Union Pacific has been replacing quite a few of these G type signals recently and replacing them with the D heads. And then that's an example of the lunar light right there. So that way it just basically replaces a yellow. And then, of course, the Pennsylvania Railroad type signal, which is directional or color position directional as well. You've got those as well. And then dwarf signals. A lot of times you would see these for the tracks coming out of the yard. Coming onto the main line, you would typically see the dwarf type signal. And then signal bridges. These would go over either 2 tracks, 3 tracks, 4 tracks. I mean, different types. And then, of course, you have cantilevers, which I'm actually getting a cantilever that's going to look just like this with these 2 signals on it for my layout. And they're kind of like a signal bridge per se, but you can only go up one side of it to change a lens out. And I think that's really all of the different types out there. So I just wanted to share this website because he's got good examples of cantilevers with the D type, G type, even the positional, like those there as well. So, and Sparky is saying he is off the phone now. So I didn't know Sparky was on the phone. I knew Roy was on the phone, but I did not know Sparky was off the phone. All right, so Split Rock's asking, did I send you a Union Pacific SSI book? Signals should be in the back of that. I'm pretty sure you did, and I have not had a chance to really look into it. David Atkins is saying absolute block signaling. Some say automatic block signaling. I think it's basically you could say either one or the other. I think both works because the way ABS works is it's not controlled by the dispatch. All your signals would stay green until a train goes into that block, and then it would go red, and then the following block, the first cleared block would be yellow. And some, like I said, some of them would have a flashing yellow in there as well. So, Marty is asking, are the signals controlled by JMRI for layouts or something else? JMRI is the way that I plan on doing it. Now, the website I just showed you, he actually builds a signaling system. I'm not planning on going that route. I know JMRI a little bit better. So I plan on using that. So in order to make this work on your layout, one of the first things that you have to do is okay. So, oh man, that comment just popped up. There we go. So Barnabas is saying that your signal bridges are called signal gantries in the UK. So there you go. Signal gantries. That's pretty cool. So what do they call the cantilevers? Same thing? Or just a one-legged signal gantry? CTC lines are usually both ABS and CTC. That is correct. 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 That is correct Very good information, Split Rock. If it's not CTC territory, the signals do not give you the authority to be on the main line. Dave BNSF in scale, take care, buddy. I see that you had to go, so I appreciate you joining. Let's see here. All right, so we went over kind of some of the different aspects. We went over the different signal types. And then, of course, I did touch on the two different types of signaling systems, and that is weak directional, and then the other one is speed controlled. So does anyone have any questions before I get into how, if you wanted to do this on your layout, what would you need and how would you need to make it work? So I'm going to give the chat a few minutes to see if there is anyone. So Barnabas is saying a single gantry for one-sided beam. Okay. I thought I had a water here somewhere. Guess not. All right, so that is doable. You can wire your signals to the tortoise switch machines to control diverging routes. That is actually one of the easiest ways of doing it. The only thing about doing that is once the train goes through the turnout, it will not change to red. So that's the only reason why I'm not going that route. That's a good point, Split Rock. And another one, which I mentioned earlier, is to protect a tunnel. There was some railroads that had either the railroad as a whole were dark or their subdivision was dark, and they would just have signals protecting the aspect of the tunnel. One of those was here in Arkansas. So Artie is wanting me to hold on. He needs to swap computers. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold on while you swap computers, because if your computer's doing Windows updates, oof, yeah, the heck with that. So Nisi is asking if you used manual turnouts, what would you use to run the signals? Well, that is the thing. Like, are you talking about like manual on your layout or manual in the real world, like where the conductor would actually have to get out and hand throw the signal? That, yeah, let me know. Yeah, automation, it's expensive in the US too, because I'm fixing to tell you everything that you need if you want any type of automation. The only free part of the automation is JMRI, but getting it set up is not that easy. It does take a lot of time, and a lot of people say time is money. All right. I'm actually going to be really using them. Some of these signals are not going to be able to be seen, but I plan on using a dispatcher to operate the layout, because some of the all the tortoises that are on my main line has zero control by those who are operating the trains. So if the local was coming through and they needed the dispatcher to switch out a turnout so they could back into an industrial siding that is connected to the main, they will actually have to contact dispatch, which is, of course, in the same room, and say, hey, I need you to turn this turnout to the diverging aspect at, say, Wiener Industrial, for example. So, Greg Runyons, welcome. I don't think I've ever seen you in Sidetrack Sunday before on my channel, so welcome. All right, so Greg Runyons is talking about using RR Circuits signaling system. So the decoders I actually plan on using are RR Circuits, SDH2s? I think that's what they're called, or SHD2s. It's one or the other, SDH2 or SHD2. Man, that's confusing. Andy Wellman is saying that he's going to be using the G-style signals. So the first thing that you're going to need to do if you're wanting to do operations on your layout with prototypical signaling is you have to create blocks on your layout, and that is by isolating segments of track. That is something that I plan to go deeper in later on. What you name your blocks, that's up to you. I would definitely have a very good blocking scheme. For me, like I've got a industrial spur. It's called Riceland. The two main lines in front of it's going to be Riceland 1, Riceland 2. And I mean, that just makes it simple. And so I already thought I was going to use the NCE Light It. No. So originally when I learned how to do this, NCE did not have the Light It. So I had to go to a company called Team Digital. And they're the ones that had the original SD H2s. I'm going to just call it SDH2s. I think it might be SHD2s. And then, of course, they decided to no longer make those, and RR Circuits is the company that decided to come out with them. So I'm going to see if I can pull Team Digital SHD2. Control A, C. There we go. All right, so there's the link to that if anyone does want to look in those. But RR Circuits, and RR Circuits is spelled CIRKITS. They're the ones that have basically bought the plan for those signal decoders. And those decoders will control either a single mast with one head, or it'll control two of those, or a single double-headed mast. If you end up having to have a triple-headed mast, then you're going to have two of those decoders. So there you go. Caboose Hobbies makes a manual ground throw with leech for controlling a signal. Now, so that is something I actually want to Google and bring up. Let's see. And this is just to kind of give an image to Nisi, because some of the manual throws did not have signals. They actually had a plate on them, if I can find one. Of course, Google's not being very helpful. All right, here we go. All right. So if y'all can see this signal over here on the right side, what you can see is when the signal is in this aspect, you can see the arrow, which means that it's diverging the track. But when it's thrown the other way, you actually see a circle that is green. And so that's kind of how they did manuals back in the day. And maybe that's what Caboose Hobbies is talking about. Here's another one right here. So you can actually see that the track, and I hope this is showing up well, but you can see that the track is in a straight position, or the turnout is. And because it's in the straight position, you see the green circle over here off to the side. And so that would be a form of a signal. And then when they take the handle and flip it over to put it in the diverging, this thing would spin. And then that's where it would show the person, either, the engineer over here or on the other end of the turnout that we can't see in the picture. They would see this red arrow that's pointing, saying, hey, the track's lined to go over to the siding over here. So that is something that you can do if you do not want to use an actual signal. And that's actually a very much cheaper way, because signals, I mean, in the real world, the real railroads, it costs money to operate these signals. And Tim is right. They're called flags. So thank you, Tim, on that one. So, all right. Kyle Stevens is out, and he said he's going to catch the rest of the replay later. So I appreciate that. And you take care, my friend. Sean McGee, that's another word, targets. But I think Sean was replying to Tim and not Chuck. Yeah, and that's because Tim and Chuck's usernames are so very similar that it confused Rainbow Bell for the longest. So, Nissy, that might be a good option for you, is to use that type of flagging system. But more or less, like, where you're, CTC, ABS, that's mainly on your main line. Industrial sightings, you typically would not have signals because your dispatch is the one that is controlling all of the turnouts. It's basically an interlock. And Thomas can more or less better explain it than I can, because I'm still learning some of this stuff, to be honest. Weber Model Railroad, welcome. And Gary Shanks is here as well, so welcome. A little late to the show. You're not late, my friend. Not at all. So if I'm still live, you're on time. All right, so, but yeah, as far as like on your railroad, the first thing you need to do is you need to create blocks on your layout and give a good block naming scheme, something that's easy to remember, something that's going to be easy for your dispatcher to remember as well. And then for those blocks, what you're going to have to do is put in what's called block detection. Digitrax, I know, has their stuff. DigiKeys has their stuff. I'm an NCE guy. For me, I'm using the BD20s from NCE with the AIU01. It's the Auxiliary Input Unit 01 card, and that is what the BD20s connect to. Now, each block would require one set of feeders. All right, so if you got more than one set of feeders, then you have to run all that through the same BD20. It's just best to use one set of feeders per block. And then, of course, those would connect back to the AIU01. Yeah, there you go, Artie. BD20s are like gold in Australia. So that will at least do the block detection part. So that way, when your train is going from block to block to block, if you got a signal that is protecting that block, it's going to show green. As soon as that train enters that block, it automatically turns that signal to red. So that is one of the first things that you need to have. And yep, Andy Wellman is saying you can also use Arduinos if you want to be like Andy, or Tom's Trains and Things, or Jimmy DIY and Digital is another one that's big on Arduinos. I do not have the time to configure one and program it, so you might contact Andy for help on that one. So Andy, I know, has been doing a few videos on his channel, and I think he's been doing it on Rumble as well. So Andy is a good one to check out for if you're wanting to go the Arduino route. And like I said, I do not know exactly what you would use for Digitrax, for you Digitrax users out there. I'm an NCE person. I've been stuck with NCE since 2008 and been happy with it, and I won't change. And that's another conversation for another day. So am I going to be adding LCC bus signaling for my railroad? No. So that's why I'm using JMRI. So, and as long as you can have your layout connected to a computer, JMRI does all the logic for you. So you can use any type of signal decoder, NCE Lightits, RR circuits, SHD2s. All right, Barnabas, man, I appreciate you being on here with me as late as it's been for you, because it is 2 a.m. there. So you have a good night, my friend, and sleep well, and I will catch you next time. But like I said, I was using these well before, and they were Team Digital when I first started using them, well before NCE came out with the Lightits. So that's why I went that route. And then, of course, RR Circuits bought out Team Digital. So I do not plan on using their system. I'm going to let JMRI do it, because JMRI will take all of the logic. It's going to pull all the information with the block detection and with what the dispatcher decides to line up with CTC. And JMRI tells those signal decoders, hey, you need to put this light at this aspect, whether it's green, yellow, red, or lunar. whether it has a flashing green, a flashing yellow, or a flashing red. I mean, depending on the signaling system that your railroad is going to be using, will also depend on the different colored aspects. And JMRI can do it all. So, and that's the way I'm going to do it. There's your other option. So Greg's decided that he's going to do dark territory timetables and train orders, and so that is an option. And if Greg, if you really want to be prototypical on that, I'm not trying to be a rivet counter, but that is where your classification lights on your locomotives would come in, whether they are green, white, or dark. And then on the back end, of course, you would have red on your cabooses or a Fred on the back of a boxcar, depending on what era you are modeling. So Derek is saying that Caboose Industries do have the manual ground throw with electrical contacts. So there you go. And that is another option. You can use sensors. For me, I'm just going to be doing the blocking. And that's basically, as I'm putting my track in, I'm using insulated rail joiners to separate my blocks. Now, if you plan on going the JMRI route and you're going to use turnouts, the best turnouts are a great place to separate blocks, for an example. But if you decide to do that, put your insulated rail joiners on the legs side of your turnouts, the straight leg and the diverging leg, not the throat side. Put it on the diverging side. So he said, I sent you the link for the Caboose Industries ground throw. Why did you just not put the link in the chat, Heath? Come on, man. You're a mod. All right, so now he's going to make me go and look for this link. He sent it over to John because I don't have my Google chat pulled up on the computer right now. So if you will send it to John, I know John will put it up there for me if he's still here. He might be catching a nap. Nope, he's still here. All right, Dwayne, take care, buddy. You have a good night. So now over in Australia, they have a thing called staffs in the dark territories. They're basic signals that are in the main stations. All right, so I think this is the link for Nisi. So there you go, Nisi. If you need that link, there you go. So Artie, you know Heath is going to try to make me work. I'm probably one of the laziest well, no, that would probably be Heath. Just kidding. I probably am one of the laziest ones in the group. Would not surprise me. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So the Milwaukee Road also uses a staff system out west. John 2618, what's going on, buddy? So now, if you're modeling like a short line, from my understanding, most of the short lines are still dark. I don't know many short lines that have signaling going on. So regionals, I'm not too sure on what the regionals are using. Like Missouri and North Arkansas, for example, they're a regional railroad. I have seen signals on there, but that used to be the Mopac White River route or the White River subdivision. And I know they had signals protecting the tunnels. I don't know if it's still that way and they're still operating dark off of times tables, or if they, Genesee, Wyoming added signals in there. So most of the tracks around here is dark territory. So after doing all this research and stuff, for my understanding is if that railroad is not moving a lot of freight or a lot of trains, if there's really no passenger on it, the chances are that railroad probably is not going to invest in signaling. They're probably just going to leave it to timetables. And especially if it's only one train on the route, and that's, like I said, most short lines. But of course, like your bigger class ones and some of the bigger regionals, I want to say like Florida East Coast is a pretty big regional. Railroads like those, I'm sure they're going to put some type of, signaling in place because, all right, Ray, take care, buddy. You have a good night yourself. Otherwise, because you're going to create, the railroads would create log jams. And that's one of the reasons why the Cotton Belt went to CTC back in the 40s, is because they had a log jam on their railroad system. And it was 121 miles, from point to point, where you've got this city here is now branching off and going, 3 different branches on this side. And then you have this, section of track, the rest of it had multiple branches. And so all that freight that went through that 121 miles, it created nothing but log jams. And keep in mind, most of the railroads back then, even class 1, smaller class 1s like the Cotton Belt was, they were single mains with, sidings, here and there. So now, from my understanding, Z Fantasy Trains, I ain't seen you in a while. How are you doing? Welcome. And Randall is saying they're still having log jams here with the signals. I guess BNSF's traffic has picked up because UP's traffic down here has just dropped off. I'm not seeing near the amount of trains coming through here. So, and I mean, used to, Randall, on the Hoxie, I live off the Hoxie sub, which is an old Mopac line through central Arkansas. I would see every single railroad except for Canadian Pacific. That's the only railroad I have not seen come through this area. I see Canadian National every once in a while. Used to see CSX and Norfolk Southern like crazy. Of course, BNSF used to run their tank trains through here, the crude oil trains. So I haven't seen much of that either. That, I believe. I believe that. Because UP took over the SP in September of 96. So that would not surprise me. So KCS. So how about the KCS? I'm not very sure. Robert from the Flying Crow is probably going to be your best bet on that one. But like I said, he is modeling the Minden subdivision in 1976. And at that time, it was dark. And the Minden subdivision is the old Arkansas and Louisiana. Or the Louisiana and Arkansas, the old LNA. Yeah. Well, and that's something else too, Randall, what they're doing, and UP is doing this as well. They're basically taking 2 trains and putting them together. And so if you watch any of my rail fanning videos, a lot of times you'll see, DPUs in the middle. And the reason why those DPUs are in the middle is because that's actually 2 trains that they consolidated to make into one big one. Yeah, Train Fan. I have seen KCS in my area. So, ironically, last month I got to see one of their heritage units come through. It was one of the Gray Ghost paint schemes. I used to see those very often 10, 15 years ago. And it's been a while since I've seen one, and one actually came through. So I do see KCS in the area. Like I said, the only railroad I have not seen in my area is Canadian Pacific. Norfolk Southern, CSX, BNSF, KCS, Ferromex. I even see Ferromex from time to time. So, and I know Randall Ellison caught a Ferromex locomotive coming through his area not too long ago too. So that is very possible. That's if that merger goes through. I don't know if that merger has been finalized yet. Usually parked. That's funny. So the funniest UP one that I can tell you is someone actually took and graffitied a UP locomotive, but they didn't really graffiti it that much. It was one of the units that said Union Pacific on the side. It was not a flag unit. And what they did was they made the U and turned it into an O, and they called it the Union Pacific. And then they put a little slogan under it, and it said, "Service that will make you cry." And so I actually saw where someone did that, and Man, I wish I could have took a picture of it at the time, but it was going by, at 55 miles an hour. So, of course, I couldn't get my camera out in time. And I didn't feel like chasing it. So, Joe, the merger that I heard was dead was the KCS Canadian National, or the CN merger has died. I think the CP one is still on the table, if I'm not mistaken. So, yep, and you're going to have lots of UP and BNSF. So, as far as like the Class 1 railroads go, the Mississippi River is your big divide. And then they have what they call the 4 gateway cities, and that is Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, and New Orleans. Or like Mystic John would call it, Narlands. They slur it together. But typically, UP, BNSF, KCS is typically on the west side of the Mississippi. I do know that there is a line, BNSF, that does go down into Alabama. That was the old Frisco line. But most of it, they were west of the Mississippi. CSX Norfolk Southern is pretty much east of the Mississippi. So, already talking about a new paint scheme. Okay, so it appears to be happening. Well, Randall, so the same thing happened with the SPSF, and they actually painted, and that's where the Kodachrome come in play. And the pretty much the International Commerce Commission, the ICC, kind of gave them the middle finger and said, no, you're not. And then that's when the SP decided to merge with the Denver and Rio Grande Western. So, yeah, just like Tim said. So, because they're doing a paint scheme, I will not believe it until the news actually says that the merger actually is finalized and the ICC approves it. But I am curious to see what that scheme's going to look like. So, yeah. So, does anyone have any questions as far as signaling for their layout or how it works in the real world? I think I pretty much touched base on everything, and I know for some people it's still clear as mud. But pretty much if you can remember, green is go, yellow, slow down, red, stop. You can kind of understand it. All right, Chuck, you take care, my friend. You have a good night. So, John, I like the Southern Belle paint scheme too. The black and red and yellow. It's one of the prettiest. So, Real Artists, if you did miss anything, you might have to go catch the replay. So, all right. So, like I was telling Mr. Pictovid earlier in the very beginning of the stream, he was asking, after he watches this live stream, is he going to learn his wife's mixed signals? I said, if she turns yellow or green, then something's not right with her. But I said, if she turns red, you better stop whatever you're doing because you made her mad. So how long am I making the length between signals? It depends, because anytime that I throw a turnout in there, it could be more or less, that's creating a block. Anytime you throw a turnout in there, that's making a block. So now, the only thing that you really don't want to put block detection on is probably your industrial sidings and yard tracks, because as long as a piece of rolling stock is there, then it would be occupied. Now, of course, in order to make it truly work, this is why signaling is expensive. 1, you got to buy the signals. 2, you got to buy the signal decoders. 3, you got to throw in some type of block detection, which requires more circuitry. Or you can do sensors like Andy mentioned with Arduinos. You could do that as well. But to have it work properly, when your locomotive goes through, it's going to work. But when that locomotive leaves one block and goes to the next, then that block's going to free up because there's no current going through it, which is what block detection detects. It detects the current. So for me, adding metal wheels to all of my rolling stock, but not just metal wheels, but with resistor wheel sets. Basically getting the resistor to bridge the gap between the left rail and the right rail. It doesn't use a whole lot of amps, but that will help make it to where your train can actually occupy 2 blocks at a time. So Mr. Pictovis says she turned in for the night, so how do I read that? I would say that is probably a lunar, so you might want to throw in some restricted speed on that one and not wake her up. So that would be my answer on that one there. So does Heath even use JMRI? I thought he did everything through DigiKeys. So, all right, y'all. Well, if no one else has any questions based on that, I would encourage you, if you are wanting to learn more, you're more than welcome to message me. Message SplitRock at SplitRock323. That's Thomas. He is an engineer for Union Pacific, so he has to know all of this stuff by memory. And I'm sure he has taken a test on them as well in order for him to be an engineer. See, we always got some NCE hater here. Leave it to Heath to be the hater. But yeah. See, now I just lost my train of thought again. Man, I'm constantly derailing over here, Heath. So, but yeah. I mean, if you got any questions, feel free. And of course, I will be posting videos time to time. How I plan on setting it up on JMRI and things like that. And, that way you can learn there. Because I know sometimes explaining things, it's hard for people to understand, but they can actually see it in practice. So, and we'll go that route. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I've been on here for an hour and a half. And, Derek has a good question. So here's the problem with that, Derek. There's like small sections on my layout where I have like very, very short blocks. So if I got a long train and let's say that it's going through, a couple of turnouts that are throat to throat, for example, I might have to make the throat to throat a very small block. So now I've got the locomotives that just went through the 2 turnouts. And now I've got this block over here occupied. This block not occupied because there's nothing electrical drawing it, and then this block's occupied. So I would recommend, maybe not every car, but at least half of them, to put resistors on. And if you want to do it yourself, and I started doing that, I was using these little bitty micro resistors and putting them on the metal wheels that had the metal axles, and I was using this. It's a paint pen, but it's conductive paint to bridge the circuit. You could do it that way, and I only do 1 wheel per truck, and I don't even do the outer wheel. I'll do the inner wheel, so that way it's less seen. So, all right, Pappy, you have a good night. I'm glad you were able to learn something. I know I'm not the best teacher out there, but hey, So if you want to make your own resistor wheel sets, I mean, that's great. But like I said, that's one of the things that it doesn't use a lot of amperage, and it does make your blocks show occupied. And that's another reason why you wouldn't want these on your industrial spurs and industrial sidings. So that's going to be interesting. So, And that's, already, that's a good point. We all learn in some form or fashion, and that's what makes this. You can do that too, Tom. If this block is occupied, then ignore last block. Otherwise, ignore signal. Good code for short blocks. That's like a statement of riding on the short bus. Split Rock, you're late on that one. Ray has already left. So speaking of, next week, Sidetrack Sunday would be Ray, and Halloween night would be Rick the Tree. But Rick wants to take his saplings out for trick-or-treating, so them two have swapped. So Sidetrack Sunday next week is going to be on Rick Bailey's channel, the Foltz and Bailey Model Railroad. So if you are not subscribed to Rick, make sure you go check his channel out. John, if you're still in chat, if you will pop his link in the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, make sure that you check out all of the Sidetrack Sunday members, because we are in the process of working on. I've got them right here. Ugh. These are going to be the STS cars. They're not painted yet. I'm still waiting on my decals to come in. But these are going to be repainted for the STS 2021 cars that we are going to be giving away. And in order to be eligible to get one of these two, you have to be subscribed to all 5 of us. So yeah, he probably will be, Tom. He probably will be. So yeah, like I said, Rick the Tree, Rick Bailey, he's going to be on next week. So make sure you check him out. No clue what he's got planned. I don't even know if he's going to dress up as a tree for Halloween, since he's going a week early. So, and then as far as Ray, I have no clue what Ray is doing either. They haven't really mentioned much. So, John, thank you so much for putting Rick's channel link in the description. So, yeah. So, other than that, I'm going to let y'all have at it. I'm going to hop off of here. It's been almost an hour and 40 minutes. So, y'all be safe out there. Y'all have a good night and happy railroading. Take care.